No one is naive enough to plant something one day and expect to eat the fruits of the crop the very next day. Likewise, we also know if we plant apple seeds, it'll be an apple tree that eventually grows. We understand the law of the harvest, that what you sow, you reap. But the harvest always comes later, and it always comes greater than when it was sown. Did you realize, though, that this isn't simply agricultural wisdom? It's a life principle. Where you are today, where I am today, is a direct result of the seeds that we sowed yesterday. Not just yesterday, literally, but over the course of many yesterdays. If somebody has financial freedom today, outside of some crazy circumstances, it's because they consistently spent less than they earned, saved and invested. If someone is struggling financially, it's likely because of different choices made over time. The law of the harvest says that what is seeded will always produce a result. It will just come later and it will come greater. We live in an instant culture. We want something and we want it now, and we hate to wait. But harvests don't work that way. The fruit always comes later. Think about it, relationships, the intimacy held by a couple that's been married for 30 years, it didn't get built overnight. When it comes to our health, the person who's really fit at 50 made daily choices in their 30s and their 40s that led to that. The expert that didn't become one after watching one simple YouTube video, no, they applied themselves for a long period of time. This delay, it isn't punishment, it's the law of the harvest. The harvest will come, but there's always the planting, then the delay, and then the harvest, or the reward. And what's great about the law of the harvest, though, is it promises us that something will come later, but it doesn't just come later, it also comes greater. And here's the amazing part. You always get back way more than you put in. One apple seed doesn't give you one apple. Rather, it gives you a tree full of apples that are each full of seeds. $1 saved and invested compounds into much, much more. One good habit creates a foundation for many more good choices. Even one act of kindness often returns as multiple unexpected blessings. See, the law of the harvest is both a warning and a promise. It's a promise that's worth holding on to as you sow well. But it's also a warning for us who aren't sowing what we need to be sowing, or who aren't sowing the very things we want to be reaping. So if you look back at your life today and you don't like the fruit, remember, you're also planting seeds right now for tomorrow's harvest. The choices you make today, the habits you build, the investments you make in relationships, in your health, in your character, in your friendships, they're all seeds. Seeds that will determine your tomorrow. Did you know that this principle is actually spoken about by Paul in the New Testament? In Galatians chapter 6, Paul writes this. He says, "Do not be deceived. God cannot be mocked. A man reaps what he sows." This tells us that you are going to reap what you sow and I'm going to reap what I sow. And when we know this to be true, but what I love is the way Paul starts this. He says, "Do not be deceived. God cannot be mocked." This is what Paul's saying here. He's saying, hey, you might be able to deceive people around you. You might be able to deceive people close to you. You might be able to hide that from your spouse, or hide that from your kids, or hide that from your friends and get away with it. But you cannot deceive God. When it comes to things in this life, you are going to eventually reap what you sow. So the question I've got for you is this: what are you sowing today to set you up for tomorrow? What if, rather than looking at finding success in what you're harvesting today, what if you looked at success and said, hey, success for me is not going to be determined by what I reap, but rather by the seeds that I sow? Because the principle's there. If you and I sow well, we will reap well. And we'll always reap later, and we're always going to reap greater.